So I was asked a lot of questions about how I set up my Sony FS5M2 on the DJI Ronin S2 or the RS2 they're calling it now. And first thing I figured I would do is show you how I set up the camera itself to be balanced. Shout out to Christian McGuire, fellow YouTuber that has a FS5. I actually followed his layout on how to set up the FS5 on the original Ronin S, and it was night and day. I was struggling, and he has a great walkthrough on the actual setup of the camera. And with that, so we strip the camera down, take the top handle off, and I ended up going out, and actually everyone knows that the FS5 is a really light body. It's made for handheld, documentary, run and gun style. So when they designed it with a really, really light body. With that, even just a standard lens is real front heavy on these cameras. So the first thing I did to counter that was I went out and picked up these batteries that are equivalent to the BP60s, and I grabbed this brand is K-Star, and there was another brand, but they didn't make them anymore that everybody was talking about. But I got these K-Stars. They come with a D-tap on top, and at the time I was using a Adamus Shinobi monitor, and instead of having more weight with bigger batteries, it just run a D-tap into the camera battery, and they still have your indicators just like the factory Sony's. So that is a big help in adding weight to the body to counter the lens. And then with taking the top handle off, you relocate your monitor. You got all your screws on top here, and it screws directly into. Another thing was for the microphone setup, the shotgun mic. I took a cheap microphone stand and took the holder piece off and ran a bolt. Again, same size thread, just threaded the holder. It's really loose and shaky, but these guys, I picked these up on Amazon. They're called Cable Creations. They're Velcro wire management, and they lifesaver. I use them for everything. Here I have one mounting the microphone to the body, so that's loose, and then again on the back with the XLR cable to do cable management on that end. And so that is the setup of the camera itself to get it ready to be mounted to whether it be a Ronin S, Ronin M, or a RSC. I have all three of those. I've done. This is by far the best. Also the handle off with the cap on for mounting to a gimbal. With the Ronin M, I actually had the accessories as a two-handed. I ran the handle up to the side, so I still had all full control of the servo zoom lens and your start-stop, which anyone knows running this camera on a gimbal, you don't have remote control. You don't have start-stop controls from a gimbal because you're not running directly from the gimbal to the camera. And so that's something down the road when they come out with the two-handle setup for the RS2, as I plan on using small rig accessories and possibly rigging my my handle, FS5 handle, to that, so I have zoom controls and start-stop controls. As of now, if I'm running on just the camera, I just have to reach up and manually start-stop, or I also currently picked up an Adamus Shogun 7. All the raw capabilities, 4K raw capabilities this camera has, so with that I start-stop from the Adamus recorder. Alright, moving on to mounting the FS5 onto the Ronin S2. You come with the Manfrotto plate. The Manfrotto plate, that is your traditional, got the sliders and the marks for your adjustments. But it also comes with this little piece here that slides into. It makes it easy because you can leave the Manfrotto plate on the Ronin and just slide it right out with this, and saves all your settings. So this piece just slides right in. It has all your safety, your connectors and everything. So once you get it balanced the way you want it, you can always leave the camera, and it's just like that, just that easy. It's mounted into mounted to the Manfrotto plate. Again, here's that connection. It slides right into the Manfrotto plate, And then here's your Manfrotto adjustments, and they really, for one, just the fact that it's a locking mechanism makes this so much easier. You know, unlock it, and I have it pretty much balanced, but you can take it, slide it, throw it out of balance, and you bring it in, kind of get to where you want, and leaving it off, it stays pretty. But now you got this this wheel to do micro adjustments. And before on the other Ronin, it was a pain because you had to do all three. There was no locking arms. So, and then see as I get closer to dialed in, it's just like a little. Because before you slide, and if it tilted back too far, it would just slide off and throw you way off. It was pretty frustrating. But here they've really stepped it up with this micro adjustments, and once you find your tilt, lock it in place, and then you move on to your next arm, which is going to be our roll again. And then with the carbon fiber, it's a lot easier to slide around in and out than it's a lot easier to slide in and out than before. The metal on metal, this carbon fiber has like a Teflon, I believe it's Teflon coating, and it's pretty easy to slide back and forth and get your adjustments right. You don't have that screeching, you don't have to add all that force to get it to move, and then that screeching metal on metal like you did before. And again, once you find your balance, you lock it down, and then again, the new lock system, you lock it in place, and then you're done. So now your tilt's done, and your roll's done, and you come down here to your pan arm, and it's still the traditional way. You unlock it and you tilt the camera, and if it rotates one direction or the other, once again, I had this pretty much balanced, but it's still the same setup. And again, lock it in place, and you're ready to transport or whatever, to get to your location, or if you're on set, and then when you're ready to go, you just unlock all three arms and power it up. I'll show you that here. And there's all kinds of YouTube videos everybody's seen. You know, the unboxings and the functions. But here, once you got it set up, and then plug in the Raven. The Raven is by far the best function, or best accessory to this whole kit. It makes the world of difference, especially with the FS5. You can get that live feed, and then the HDMI cable. I actually, with the FS5, had to flip the Raven backwards because our HDMI cable is on the other side, on the far side of the camera. So with that, I had to flip the Raven around, which is no problem. It's a cold shoe mount in there, so it works. The cable is pretty tight and short, feels short, but it does fit in there. The mini HDMI from the Raven up to it feels like it's pulling on a little bit, and then but it does fit in there, and you get your Raven Eye feed to your gimbal handle. So, and that's set up, and it does work. The Raven Eye it's a built-in monitor onto the power it on here. And here we'll power it on, and you'll see one of the big things that I'm still getting used to is having to power. You got to power on the camera, the Ronin, my Adamus, and one thing I really forget about all the time is the power on the Raven. The Raven does have its own power button. You do have to have it powered on, but once you have it connected to the camera and connected to the gimbal and powered up, you swipe down, and of course there's now you do have a FS5 does give the feed through the Raven, and show it does work. Get your little one click for the active track. This I'm still figuring out, which it might be if there's not enough light. It does work, but the problem I have found is it tries to find faces. So if filming something and there's somebody close by, it tries to doing it automatically through the gimbal, tries to grab somebody's face. The cell phone is, I thought this was pretty. I'm not a big fan of having to use a cell phone app or using cell phone apps to, but I really enjoyed, for the first time the other day, I actually used the DJI app with the Raven, and it's a world of difference. It gives you a monitor. You don't have to go out and get your Shinobis or your small HDs or whatever. Your cell phone, which, again, that's one more thing you got to keep charged, and of course you get phone calls or texts. It might mess up your feed. But the Raven Eye and the Active Track work amazing with the cell phone connected. So that is why I do have the cell phone piece on here. If I could run the Active Track through my Adamus, obviously that'd be more convenient, less stuff, less weight on the rig. Because at this moment, between the camera, which is larger than a DSLR, which isn't, it's not a large cinema camera, so it's nice in that aspect, but it is larger than a DSLR. The gimbal is 25% lighter than the original, which it is noticeable, so that really helps counter the weight. But then once you throw a cell phone on here, which the cell phone isn't bad, everybody's used to carrying a cell phone, and the Raven Eye and the cell phone are 100% worth the setup. I would have paid the full price for the setup just for the Raven. But all the other functions work amazing so far. The couple of test shoots I've gotten done, and then of course adding a massive. I actually take the briefcase handle that comes with this to take the tripod and put on as the briefcase handle to put in briefcase mode. I actually take that handle and flip it upside down and mount it, which gives you a 1/4 inch mounting spot, and that is where I mount my Adamus Shogun 7 recorder, which is unnecessary weight that I've chosen because of my camera setup and wanting the 4K RAW. That is definitely not a necessity, and the recorder itself almost weighs as much as the gimbal and camera setup itself. So you have to pick your battles there. It does become very heavy, fully rigged out at this time. But you know, this video is geared towards FS5 users. This is by far the best. Like I said, I've used the Ronin S, the Ronin M. I actually ended up going with the Ronin M because the S was such a pain to mount the FS5 But it's easy. Like with the lock system, once you get it balanced, which is light years ahead of balancing on an original Ronin S, once you get your arms all figured out and you can lock them all and remove the camera from the plate without removing the plate, the time saving is worth upgrade. But it works amazing. I got full range of motion here. It's one of the problems I did have with previous was you had to slide the camera back so far that you would hit, or you'd have to like do some janky stuff to get it into flashlight mode or underslung. But this setup, you do have full range to go into full undersling mode and back up. So it works perfect. I mean, the FS5 in this setup is perfect. I recommend it to anyone looking for the setup for their FS5. I know before people were having to use, with the factory battery, having to use smaller, like miniature lenses. And the main thing is to set up the camera right. That's a big part of it. I don't know about setting this camera up because you are on the middle or the back mounting, and you had to use the adapter screw, the 1/4 inch screw. So I am on the furthest back mounting point, and you can tell that I'm pretty much almost maxing out the plate. So yeah, as far as the weight goes, you really need to distribute the weight as much as possible. So I'm not sure with having the smaller battery, you'd have to be able to move it back further to move the weight back, and I'm not sure if that's possible with being on the furthest back mounting and almost maxing out the plate here. I guess it might go a little further, but you notice on the Manfrotto plate there's actually teeth to groove for the micro adjustments, and that's when you max out. So it's pretty close to the point here. So I'd almost say you'd almost have to either counterweights, or I chose the bigger battery just because if I'm gonna add the weight, I want the function. If I'm adding dead counterweights, that's just extra weight for no reason. But at least with the larger batteries, I'm getting more battery power, so the added weight is functional. And of course with the D-tap for any accessories. The kit does come with the focus motor. I am using the servo. I am using the servo 18 to 105, so I'm not using. I hate the one thing I think is gimmicky, and if you're somebody that can make it work and it works fine, the little rubber adapter rings you got to put on a photography or a focus by wire lens, it's just pain. So I do have the focus motor, but I don't have any cine lenses with the teeth, the manual teeth. That's the only way I would use it. I am looking for that as an upgrade. I'm looking forward to some cine lenses. But yeah, so it does come with the focus motor and the little rubber adapter for lenses. And of course the 3D focus coming out looks amazing. I know Make Art Now's channel did a great cover of that and examples of that coming. So that would be great. That turns any lens into an autofocus lens, because it uses the LiDAR technology from like cell phones to measure distance. And so it doesn't rely on the camera at all. It's a 100% like standalone system for your focus pulling. So that's a good accessory coming. And then of course they have the dual handles coming out, which I'm looking forward to finding some way to adapt the FS5 side handle to that, like I did my Ronin M. But in all, it's a perfect system for the FS5. Is a small run and gun documentary cinema camera, and this is the perfect gimbal setup for it. I'll make updates to any updates to my gear or my setup. I'll update with video and photos on Instagram. Thank you.